Change is inevitable in life and in business. Life sciences companies face constant change as they adapt to new regulations, novel technologies, continuous improvement initiatives, and more. Changes in the industry impact QMS processes, products, documents, employees, and customers. For example, the unprecedented pace and scale of new technologies is affecting the operations function across all life sciences verticals. Manufacturers are introducing novel advanced technologies, automating and digitizing processes, and applying advanced analytics to data. These trends are generating major shifts in the skills of the operations staff. Companies are forcing employees to accept new ways of working to be more competitive and improve the quality of their products and services. Most changes are intended to be beneficial, while others pose some risks. Any organization in the life sciences needs to have an effective change management system in order to evaluate, approve, and implement changes. In this short course, we will discuss the basics of an effective change management system. The goal is for your organization to manage changes throughout the life cycle of your products and services. In the highly regulated life sciences space, the process of managing changes is critical to ensuring quality throughout the product life cycle. The industry needs to address risks and opportunities to achieve the intended goals and foster quality improvement in a business environment. Changes in an organization's quality management system processes can help achieve the benefits of new opportunities or even prevent business risks. These changes may involve procedures, equipment, and processes such as inputs, resources, people, activities, controls, measurements, outputs, etc. There are many different examples of changes, like when a new source of raw material must be used, or when there are new specification requirements, or when regulations change, etc. There are also changes involving the implementation of new technologies. New practices and novel technologies can be adopted to achieve the intended results, to improve processes, or to be more competitive and meet customer expectations. By definition, any change is intended to be beneficial to the organization. Therefore, changes must be carried out in line with internal policies and regulations. Later on, we will see that change management must be well defined in any QMS. People need to understand and follow the change management process according to the organization's directions to ensure its effectiveness. When there is a change in products or services, the organization must ensure the relevant documented information is amended and that all relevant parties are made aware of the updated requirements. It's important to know that change management is a never-ending process. As business evolves over time, new risks and opportunities need to be considered to plan for new changes. According to ISO 9000, change control is an activity that controls the results of a process after formal approval of its requirement or other information for product design, realization, verification, operation, and support. I prefer the following definition for change control from the glossary of the EU GMP Annex 15. Change control is a formal system by which qualified representatives of appropriate disciplines review, propose, or actual changes that might affect the validated status of facilities, systems, equipment, or processes. The intent is to determine the need for action to ensure and document that the system is maintained in a validated state. Chapter 5.23 of the EU GMP guidelines states that significant amendments to the manufacturing process, including any change in equipment or materials that may affect product quality and/or the reproducibility of the process, should be validated. The US Food and Drug Administration's 21 CFR Part 800, Section 820.30 Part 1 states, "Design changes. Each manufacturer shall establish and maintain procedures for the identification, documentation, validation, or where appropriate, verification, review, and approval of design changes before their implementation." This statement means that all proposed changes must be approved before they are implemented. Later, we will discuss who is responsible for approving changes. The main purpose here is to ensure no unnecessary changes are made, that all changes are documented, that services are not unnecessarily disrupted, and that resources are used efficiently. Change control programs are truly essential to any pharmaceutical quality assurance system. For effective change management, the organization must retain documented information describing the results of the review of changes, the person or persons authorizing the change, and any necessary actions arising from the review. Change management is a systematic approach to proposing, evaluating, approving, implementing, and reviewing changes. The scope of change management is much broader than that of change control, which is typically applied to one change at a time. Change management should be considered throughout the product lifecycle, as it includes the oversight and management of the entire portfolio of changes and the change process, including all the components of change control. A change control process in a QMS may involve several triggers: customer complaints and feedback, non-conformities and deviations, determined risks and opportunities, audit results, identified opportunities for continuous improvement, trending process performance data, corrective actions and preventive actions, CAPAs, and innovation. In a QMS, changes should be documented and describe the results of the review, the person or persons authorizing the change, and any necessary actions arising from the review. Change control is considered an essential element of the pharmaceutical quality assurance system. Therefore, it makes sense for the QA head or representative to oversee the change control program. With that, the quality assurance department is usually responsible for the organization's change management system. The QA department helps to maintain the integrity of the QMS when changes are planned and implemented. The individuals involved in the change control process can be categorized based on their responsibility and authority over the change: process owner, lead process users, end users, etc. Before implementation, QA is responsible for ensuring changes are reviewed, verified, validated as appropriate, approved. However, change control is not department specific. It is ultimately the responsibility of the entire company. Quality-relevant changes can affect several areas of an organization: research and development, manufacturing, quality control, regulatory affairs, engineering, etc. It is important to understand that quality awareness across all departments is vital for effective change management. Change control cannot be assigned from the top down. Management's responsibility is to communicate the significance and benefits of the change program in an intensive training. It should be part of the company's overall quality culture. Only when employees are motivated to continuously improve the quality of their product or service will they accept the change control program as a suitable improvement tool and not a mere formality or bureaucratic measure. When the organization identifies a need for a change that affects the QMS, the change must be carried out in a planned manner. The change management program should be unique and applicable company-wide. The QA department should provide a policy for changes with a uniform documentation and authorization procedure. Before a change is proposed and implemented, the organization must consider the purpose of the change, its potential consequences, the effect of the change in the QMS, the available resources, and the allocation of responsibilities and authorities. In life sciences organizations, the change control program serves to maintain the validated status. Changes can influence validated processes and qualified facilities such that manufactured products no longer definitively comply with specifications. Some changes require complete revalidation and/or requalification. Before implementing a change, organizations need to assess the potential impact of that change. An impact assessment can be performed by evaluating the effect of the change on the product safety and quality. This is accomplished by using a quality risk management process. There are three basic parts of a change description: the change itself, the reason for making the change, and the corresponding justification. In the change, the description should be accurate, specific, and concise. It should explain briefly what the change is. In the reason, the description should provide a concise and specific reason for making the change. In the justification, the description should describe why it is acceptable to make the change. This part outlines the impact of the change in the process, product, or business. A description of how the impact will be mitigated should also be described, based on a risk assessment. There are 5 types of recognized changes in the life sciences: major change, minor change, emergency change, like-for-like change, temporary change. Other classifications are possible as well. They depend on the scope of the change and its effect on product safety and quality. Change classification is based on the quality risks involved. It also depends on the severity of the impact of the change. A major change may adversely affect the specifications and the critical attributes of a product, procedure, process, equipment, system, facility, etc. In addition, it may have an adverse impact on the validated state, product, quality, or process reliability. A minor change is unlikely to have an adverse impact on the quality attributes of the product, procedure, process, equipment, system, facility, etc. The validated state should not be compromised. Changes with a non-adverse impact on the GMP requirements do not require a change control process. An emergency change is required immediately when an unexpected situation occurs. This change needs to be fast-tracked for authorization and approval before implementation. This type of change is generally made when changing parts, instruments, or equipment with the same function and an equivalent performance. This type of change is approved based on predetermined limits, such as a specific number of batches or a defined period of time. At the end of the deadline, the change returns to its original state. The type of change helps organizations assess the additional testing or validation studies needed to justify the change in a validated process. This is why quality risk management is used to evaluate any proposed change. The level of effort and the formality of the evaluation should also be commensurate with the level of risk involved. Proposed changes should be evaluated relative to the approved marketing authorization as well as the current product and process understanding. From a regulatory perspective, any change that falls within the design space, for example, a process change, is not considered a change. This is why using quality by design principles is key to ensuring a robust process and facilitating changes within the design space. According to ICHQ8, the design space is the multidimensional combination and interaction of input variables, such as material attributes, and process parameters, such as time, temperature, pH, etc., that have been demonstrated to promote quality. For example, if a change affects a parameter outside the design space, then it is considered a change and will initiate a post-approval change process. Note that the design space is proposed by the applicant in a marketing authorization. As stated in ICHQ8, working within the design space is not considered a change, at least not from a regulatory filing perspective. However, from a pharmaceutical quality system standpoint, all changes should be evaluated per the organization's change management system. No, deviations cannot be treated as changes, not even when deviations become changes after the organization clarifies the event. A reminder that a deviation is an unplanned, undesirable variation from a requirement. It does not correspond with the aim or procedure of change control, and it should be dealt with according to the deviations and CAPA management system. The change control process includes 7 steps. 1. Request for change, description, reason, and justification. 2. Review by the change committee. 3. Impact assessment, risk analysis. 4. Approval. 5. Implementation, training and communication. 6. Post-change review and evaluation. 7. Closure. This is the first phase. The change control process begins with the submission of an official request. A change request form describes the need for a change along with the reason and the corresponding justification. Changes need to have a clear benefit. Don't make the change request form so burdensome. Instead, make it easy for employees to understand and use. Employees should be engaged in the continuous improvement process. For example, say your organization is implementing an electronic QMS that will replace the current paper-based QMS for managing documents and quality processes. An integrated QMS will connect your documentation and processes to ensure they comply with current regulations and standards. The eQMS will facilitate faster access to information and eliminate waste. All quality processes, document control, CAPAs, change controls, deviations, etc. will be integrated in the same platform. A change control committee is responsible for reviewing the change request from a technical and regulatory perspective. The committee is usually composed of representatives from different departments, such as QA, manufacturing, regulatory affairs, engineering. Other representatives can be included depending on the change. The change control committee should determine whether the justification for the change is sufficient, whether a revalidation is needed, and whether an evaluation of the potential risks should come into play as well. Any change poses a risk to the QMS. An impact assessment classifies the change based on the impact of the change on the quality, product, etc. Conversely, the risk analysis looks into the risks and hazards involved. It assesses what may go wrong in relation to what might be improved. The Change Control Committee approves or rejects the proposed change. Any modification in procedures, forms, working instructions, training plans, etc. should be done after the change approval, yet before communication and training the involved personnel. Sometimes a process revalidation is needed. After the change is implemented, a continuous revision and evaluation of the process or product quality is completed. For example, batches of product are evaluated and compared with batches from before the change was made. Special care is taken if there are non-conformities or deviations in the changed process. Finally, after a defined evaluation period, the change control is closed, as long as the evidence shows the change does not have an adverse effect on the product or service. That's all. Thank you for attending this course. I hope you found it useful and that you have learned what you expected. See you in other courses at Scilife Academy to continue your learning journey.